The night the Henderson family disappeared, the town of Millfield held its breath. It was a quiet Friday evening in the summer of 1983, and the streets were alive with the usual chatter of children playing and neighbors waving from porches. Click on the subscribe button and get locked into Crime Chronicles. The Hendersons, a family of 5, were the picture of suburban happiness. James and Evelyn Henderson, devoted parents, and their 3 children. Lucas, the eldest at 12, Anna, 10, and little Sophie, just 6 years old. They lived in a modest 2-story house on Willow Lane, the kind of home that seemed impervious to tragedy. But that Friday night, everything changed. The first to notice the absence was Mrs. Thompson, their neighbor, who had borrowed a cup of sugar that afternoon. When the doorbell rang unanswered and the lights stayed off past dusk, concern grew. The town's police were called, and soon the Henderson house became the epicenter of a nightmare. Inside, there were no signs of struggle, no broken furniture, no overturned belongings, no screams frozen in time. The family car was gone, keys left behind. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and still, the Hendersons remained missing. Rumors swirled. A family feud, a secret debt, maybe even a cult. Theories were as endless as they were heartbreaking. But the cruelest mystery of all was the children, or more precisely, the child who survived. Lucas, the eldest, had been sent to his grandmother's house for the weekend. He returned Monday morning to a scene that would haunt him for the rest of his life. His parents, his sister, his little Sophie, gone. No one could tell him what had happened. The police were baffled, and the town whispered around him, with eyes that flickered between pity and fear. For Lucas, childhood ended that day. The boy who had once ridden his bike to school and laughed with friends was now a ghost of himself. He carried the weight of silence, the questions that had no answers, and the impossible knowledge that somewhere, hidden in the shadows of that house, lay the truth he might never uncover. Years passed. Lucas grew up in foster homes and with relatives, carrying the memory of his family like a stone in his chest. But he was not broken. He became determined. He studied law enforcement, learned about criminal investigations, and began to understand the patterns of deceit and violence that often went unnoticed in families like his. Then 15 years later, the breakthrough came, not from the police, but from him. Lucas, now 27, returned to Millfield, drawn by the need to close a chapter that had defined his entire life. The house on Willow Lane had long been abandoned, a decaying shell, yet something inside him insisted he look closer. While sifting through old belongings that had been left behind, Lucas discovered a small, rusted box tucked under the floorboards of the master bedroom. Inside were letters, carefully written, chilling in their precision. They were from his father, James Henderson, and the contents revealed a plan he had long concealed. It was a confession in fragments. James had meticulously detailed his fears, his frustrations, his rage, everything that had led him to murder his family. There was no sign of remorse, only a cold, clinical justification for the unthinkable acts. Lucas felt bile rise in his throat, but beneath it, a strange clarity formed. He finally understood the depth of the evil he had narrowly escaped. Armed with this evidence, Lucas contacted the authorities. The letters were enough to reopen the case. Investigators returned to the Henderson home, finding corroborating evidence in hidden compartments in a cellar that had never been fully searched. What shocked the town wasn't just the discovery of James Henderson's crimes. It was the methodical, almost surgical precision with which he had executed them, leaving only a young boy alive to carry the pain. Within days, James Henderson was apprehended. He did not resist. In fact, when confronted with his son standing before him, no longer a frightened child but a man determined, he confessed. His words were icy, devoid of guilt. He had wanted to teach the world a lesson about control, he claimed. But to Lucas and the town, his confession felt like the lifting of a long, suffocating fog. The trial was brutal in its honesty. Neighbors, friends, and even the investigators recounted the fear and uncertainty that had gripped Millfield for 15 years. But the emotional heart of the trial was Lucas, standing in court, finally facing the man who had robbed him of his family, his innocence, and his childhood. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply recounted the facts, presented the evidence, and allowed the weight of the truth to speak for itself. Justice was swift. James Henderson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He had robbed Lucas of his family, but he had not broken him. The town watched as the man who had once commanded power through fear was reduced to a figure of despair, powerless behind bars. The dramatic irony was not lost on anyone. For years, James Henderson had believed himself untouchable, clever enough to escape detection. Yet it was the very child he had tried to destroy, the one he thought weakest, who ultimately held the power to bring him down. In the aftermath, Lucas returned to the house on Willow Lane one last time. He walked through the empty rooms, imagining his family alive and laughing, holding them close in memory. The house was silent now, but for the first time in 15 years, it felt like a place where truth had returned. Lucas spoke then, softly, as if the walls themselves could hear. You cannot control the world through fear. You cannot destroy love and hope without paying the price. The truth has a way of finding the light, even if it takes 15 years. The lesson resonated far beyond the walls of the old house. In a world where evil can hide behind quiet smiles and perfect facades, justice often arrives in unexpected ways. The powerless, the overlooked, the silenced, they may seem defeated, but they carry within them the potential to shift the balance of power entirely. Millfield slowly healed. The story of the Henderson family became a cautionary tale, whispered among neighbors and recounted in classrooms. It was a story of unimaginable loss, but also of resilience, courage, and the enduring power of truth. Lucas rebuilt his life, honoring his family not through vengeance, but through integrity and strength. 15 years of silence had ended. The world finally knew the truth, and the last surviving Henderson child had emerged, not as a victim, but as the arbiter of justice. Because sometimes the most powerful weapon in the fight against evil is not rage or revenge or even violence. It is patience, observation, and the unwavering belief that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way home. Click on the subscribe button for more interesting true crime content on Crime Chronicles.